There's a certain level of discipline that makes people look at you with fear, and today you're going to discover exactly how to get there. Have you ever come across that person who just never fails? Who rises at the exact same time every single morning, does the same things and never stops moving forward? While everyone else throws in the towel by week 3, they keep pushing. While others are busy manufacturing excuses, they simply show up. And do you know what people say about them? Man, that's not normal. There exists an ancient system developed by Zen monks in Japan that cultivates precisely this kind of terrifying consistency. They call it Gyoji, the practice that sustains itself. Once you truly grasp how this works, you will never abandon a goal again. But there's a catch here. This system is not designed for everyone. It demands that you kill a part of yourself you didn't even know existed. Before I show you how it all works, subscribe to the channel, drop a like below, and comment the habit you most want to bring to life. This helps me tremendously and lets me know you're serious about change. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The story I'm about to tell you happened to a programmer named Raphael. He was a sharp guy, career was on track, but he had one problem. He could not stick to any habit beyond 2 weeks. Gym. He'd quit after 2 months. Meditation, 1 week done. Reading. He'd buy a book, get through maybe 3 pages, and then it would rot in the drawer. The cycle was always the same. Monday, motivation through the roof. Wednesday, the first internal negotiation creeps in. Friday, total collapse. Sunday, promises about next week. Raphael tried everything. Habit tracking apps, rewards systems, accountability partners. Nothing worked because he was fighting something he couldn't even begin to imagine. The very architecture of his own brain. Until the day he discovered why Zen monks can meditate for 800 consecutive years without missing a single session. And no, it's not willpower. It's something far deeper and far more unsettling. Chapter 2. The Secret of the Monks. In Zen temples, there exists a rule that sounds simple but completely changes the game. Gyoji. In literal translation, it means continuous practice with no gaps. No gaps. Do you understand what that actually means? It means that since 1200 AD, not a single day has passed without the bell ringing at Ihai Temple at exactly 30:30 in the morning. And since 1200 AD, every single day the monks wake up. Not 3:25, not 3:35, precisely 13:30. You want to know what never happens in that temple? No monk ever lies in bed thinking, okay, today I'm going to jump. That question doesn't even exist in their consciousness. Why? Because they understand something you don't yet. Your brain sorts every commitment into one of 2 boxes, reversible or irreversible. Reversible commitments become endless mental debates. Irreversible commitments just happen. When a monk takes his vows in front of the entire community, he's not merely making a promise. He's not promising to try meditating. He's declaring himself a meditator. The community bears witness. The identity shifts. The negotiation stops. A Harvard neuroscientist who has spent 15 years studying habits uncovered something revolutionary. When you make a behavior public, your primitive brain perceives failure as a survival threat. Our ancestors who lost status in the tribe did not survive. Your brain still runs on that same ancient code. That's exactly what Raphael did. He stopped whispering private promises to himself and started making public declarations. He wrote on paper, I am a person who meditates 20 minutes every day at 500 am. For 90 consecutive days he signed it. He posted it on social media. He told everybody. His girlfriend said, you're being way too dramatic. His co-workers said, man, you're trying way too hard. Perfect. Every person who knew him became fuel for the fire. Every morning he wanted to quit. He imagined having to look each one of them in the eye and admit he was just another guy who couldn't keep his word. Day 3 brought the first true test. The alarm screamed at 500 am. Immediately, his mind launched into its familiar routine. You're exhausted. This can't be healthy. 1 day off won't change anything. But something fundamental had shifted. The thought of announcing online that he'd folded after 3 days was unbearable. The thought of looking his girlfriend in the face and confessing he'd quit again. The public declaration had made surrender more painful than perseverance. But then the real problem surfaced. Chapter 3. The Internal War. Even with all that social pressure stacked behind him, Raphael was still fighting a war every single morning. His body didn't care about his reputation. His body wanted sleep when it was tired. The public declaration had eliminated the mental negotiation, but biology was still attacking him every sunrise. That's when he uncovered the monk's second principle, non-negotiable hours. Every single day you burn mental energy on the exact same pointless question. When am I going to do this? Now or after breakfast? Morning or night? This decision consumes glucose in your brain that should be reserved for actual practice. You're draining your fuel deciding when to drive instead of just driving. Raphael chose 500 am. Not because he was some morning person who adored sunrises. He chose 500 a.m. because the entire world was asleep. No messages, no emails, no distractions, no excuses. The time wasn't about optimization. It was about removal. Removing every possible justification to postpone. The first week was hell. His body fought him every single morning. That's normal. Your body is a machine that runs on pattern recognition, and you're forcing it to carve a new groove. It will resist. In the second week, something started to shift. He began waking up 2 minutes before his alarm. His body had started preparing for what awaited it. On day 14, the alarm rang and his feet hit the floor before his conscious mind even registered the sound. No thought, no decision, just movement. Here's what most people miss about fixed hours. It's not about locating the perfect schedule. It's about removing time as a variable altogether. When you do something at different times each day, you're forcing your brain to make a fresh decision every single time. When the schedule is locked in, your brain can't argue with a constant, but Raphael uncovered a new problem. His schedule was fixed, but he kept rotating what he did inside that time. Some mornings meditation felt right, other days he read, sometimes a few push-ups. His brain had located a new point of negotiation. Instead of debating when, he began debating what. 20 minutes at 500 am became reliable, but the practice itself was chaos. The fixed schedule had solved one half of the equation, but his mind was still squeezing through loopholes to bargain. He'd removed the when, but not the what. And this is precisely where Dogen's teaching on forms becomes controversial, because it requires you to do the exact same thing every single day until your mind completely surrenders. Chapter 4, The One Way. You think variety keeps things interesting, but variety is actually where consistency goes to die. Every time you switch up what you're doing, your brain has to make micro decisions. Should I do push-ups or burpees today? Which book should I read? How long should my meditation be? Every minor decision is a crack where your old patterns seep back in. Raphael locked everything down completely. 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading, same timer, same everything. His personal Ango period, 90 days of identical repetition. His friends called him robotic. His girlfriend said he was getting irritating. They didn't understand that irritating was the entire point. Third week, his mind went to war. Every morning it screamed for novelty. This is stupid. You're not a machine. Mix it up or you'll burn yourself out. Fourth week, something snapped. Not his discipline, his resistance. The voice of negotiation grew quieter. By week 6, he was already halfway through his push-ups before he even realized he'd started. The practice had begun to carry itself. This is what people misunderstand about consistency. It's not about sustaining willpower indefinitely. It's about repetition until willpower becomes irrelevant. Your body memorizes the sequence the same way a dancer memorizes choreography. An MIT researcher who has spent 12 years studying behavioral automatization explains, when you repeat an action in the same environment for approximately 66 days, the basal ganglia takes over. The behavior becomes automatic. You are no longer choosing to do it. You are simply doing it. On day 35, Raphael caught the flu. On day 40, he was traveling for work. This is where the old pattern used to take over. Sick day equals rest day. Travel equals exception. This is where you've quit before, where everyone quits, because perfect practice demands perfect conditions and perfect conditions don't exist. But Dogen understood something about gaps that rewrites everything. He wrote that practice must continue without even a single moment of gap, because inside that gap, all your old patterns return. What saved Raphael when everything started breaking down was the realization that practice doesn't demand perfection. It demands continuity. Chapter 5. Practice without gap. The all or nothing lie has murdered more consistency than laziness ever could. You tell yourself, if I can't do the full 20 minutes, why do anything at all? If I can't perform perfect push-ups, I'll just wait until tomorrow. This kind of thinking manufactures gaps, and gaps are where your old self crawls back in. Look closely at any elite athlete, and you'll see something most people misinterpret. They take rest days, but those rest days are still part of the progress. They're intentional, strategic, planned. Never because they felt lazy, never because they didn't want to train. A rest day allows them to train harder tomorrow. That is still forward movement. But when you skip because you're tired, that's not rest, that's retreat. A river never stops moving. During drought, it may slow to a trickle, but it never stops. The instant it stops, it's no longer a river. It's a memory of where the water used to be. Your practice is exactly the same. The moment you allow a gap, you are no longer practicing. You are someone who used to practice. Travel day came on day 40. Airport at 400 am, meetings stacked all day, no gym at the hotel. Raphael did push-ups in the airport bathroom. People looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Perfect. He meditated in the Uber. He read on the plane. Nothing was flawless. Everything maintained the momentum toward the same goal he'd declared 90 days ago. This is Gyoji, practice continuing itself. That's when people started to notice. Coworkers said he seemed different. Friends said he was becoming obsessed. Someone actually said his discipline wasn't healthy, that normal people don't act like that. When you hear those words, you know you're on the correct path. Normal people achieve normal results. You're not trying to be normal. You're trying to be unbreakable. But here's what nobody prepares you for. The unexpected obstacles you never saw materialize. The things you can't plan for because you don't even know they exist. Chapter 6. Pre-solutions. Your child gets sick. Your car dies on the way to the gym. Your boss keeps you late. These are consistency assassins because you haven't decided how you'll respond to them. Every time an unforeseen obstacle emerges, you're forced to make a decision under pressure. And that decision, made in that moment of chaos, is where you'll choose the path of least resistance every single time. The obstacle wins because you're fighting a battle you never trained for. Zen monasteries have operated for centuries without missing a single day of practice. Earthquakes, wars, famines. The practice continues. How? They don't make decisions when obstacles arise. The answer already exists. When the meditation hall floods, they relocate to the dining hall. When the dining hall catches fire, they sit in the courtyard. There is no meeting, no discussion, no negotiation. The bell rings, the response is automatic. Raphael wrote down every obstacle that had ever broken his consistency and solved every single one. Plan for rain, push-ups in the garage, guests staying over, silent workout in the bathroom, hangover, which shouldn't happen, but if it does, 2 push-ups, 1 minute of meditation, 1 page of reading. Every scenario had its predetermined response. When X happens, I do Y. No thinking, no negotiating, just execution. The power of this isn't just maintaining the sequence. It's that you stop exhausting yourself with decisions. Your brain understands that no matter what arrives tomorrow, the practice continues. This certainty rewires your entire nervous system. A Yale behavioral psychologist who has spent 20 years studying decision-making discovered that when you decide your actions, you eliminate decision fatigue at the critical moment. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for willpower, stays intact to execute rather than deliberate. Day 70. Raphael's practice had become fully automatic. Sometimes he'd wake up not even remembering having done the push-ups. His body simply moved through the sequence like programmed machinery. His girlfriend's mother came to stay for a week. He did push-ups in the bathroom at 500 a.m. The practice continued because the answers were already written. On day 90, he completed his personal Ango. 3 months of uninterrupted practice. But something deeper had occurred. He was no longer the same person. Friends literally told him, "Your consistency is frightening." His response was perfect. Good. Chapter 7. The transformation. Because when your discipline makes other people uncomfortable, you're finally operating at the appropriate level. Your existence proves that everything they claim is impossible is actually just uncomfortable. That's why they'll label you obsessive. That's why they'll tell you you need balance. They need you to decelerate so they can feel better about standing still. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it because you've uncovered the truth. Consistency isn't about performing something every day. It's about becoming someone who cannot function any other way. When you implement the Gyoji system, public declaration, fixed schedule, seamless practice method, resolved answers, you aren't just constructing habits. You are reconstructing your identity. You stop being someone who attempts and become someone who simply is. And when that happens, when that transformation completes itself, people will observe you and wonder, how does he do that? And the answer will be simple. He doesn't, he is. The question remains, are you ready for this depth of transformation? Because this isn't about discipline. This is about death and rebirth. The death of your inconsistent self. The birth of your unbreakable self. The Gyoji system will not make you a better person. It will make you a different person. Someone others will look at and think, that's not normal. And when you hear those words, you'll understand that you've finally arrived exactly where you intended to be. If this video transformed your perspective on discipline and consistency, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you never miss future content that will reshape you. And tell me in the comments, what will your public declaration be? What habit will you anchor using the Gyoji system? Remember, the consistency that intimidates others is the only consistency worth pursuing. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you deeply for your attention. I'll see you in the next video.